Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is it's Thursday, August the 14th, 2025. I welcome both my YouTube YouTube subscribers as well as my Rumble followers. You guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, we're gonna give it a few minutes to give people a chance to come in. Hopefully um, hopefully everybody hopefully everybody's having a good week. Of course, got started today on watching some cartoons from January 1940, include the early Worm Gets the Bird from Tex Avery. Let's see, Shakespearean Spinach from the Popeye cartoon Shakespearean Spinach, which of course was the first time that Pinto Colvig, who was known for as one of the first voices for like Goofy and Pluto for Disney. This was the first time he did the voice for Bluto in a Popeye cartoon, and would do so for the next for I think for about a couple years there before Fleischer sold out to Paramount, Famous, and all that. So. Oh, let's see. We're at 2:17 now. Let's see. Just waiting to just waiting to let some people come in. Obviously. Again, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Uh, um. With that, we're just, as I said, just waiting on people to come in. All right, so it looks like. All right, so now we're at the 3 minute mark. I guess I'll talk about what's on tap for tonight. So I got at least one article to go over from Bleeding Fool, and time pending. We might even do another one. Of course, this week we're going to be looking back to Chris Braley's Indie Comics Showcase. Looking at some of the latest, independent comic stuff coming out. Episode 306 on that. Plus, after that, of course, we'll be getting into the wrestling wrap-up. We'll look back to last night's AEW Dynamite. Look ahead to tonight's Ring of Honor Club, and the Go Home episode of TNA Impact before TNA has its Emergence pay-per-view tomorrow night, and then we will get, of course, and we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. Well, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started here? Oh, hold on a sec. I actually forgot to switch out my glasses here. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go ahead and put some music on for you guys while I'm done. I will be right back. All right, sorry about that. So, as I said, we got one article planned. Depending on how fast we get through that, I might add a second one. But with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started here? Alrighty then. All right, so here we go. All righty then. All right, so Indie Comics Showcase number 306, Morningstar Chronicles and Next Evolution article by Chris Braley, published August 13th, 2025, which of course was yesterday. All right, so let's see now. Again, feel free to comment and or ask questions if and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. If anything catches your attention, I'll try to answer the questions or comments to the best of my ability. So, with that being said here, welcome back to another installment of Indie Comics Showcase, the weekly blog where we signal boost a few truly independent comics that are currently crowdfunding their projects, crowdsourcing their funding in some way, or just completely self-publishing on their own. Every little bit of support for these creators matters, from a single dollar pledge to the $25 bundle, and of course, the higher tiers are usually fun too. Even if you can't back a campaign or buy a book, you can share and tweet about these projects to your friends and followers. Also, you can catch my show on Thursdays. I usually will highlight the article here by going over it and giving some commentary on it, of course. So another way, and of course, I'll also be sharing some of the links to the campaigns as well throughout the show as we get to each of them. So on Indie Comics Showcase, we interview the creators, show off some art, and tell you how you can check out the product for yourself. Below, we have some outstanding crowdfunding campaigns this week for you to learn about, enjoy, and hopefully support by backing one or more of them. Thanks for checking these out and for being the best part of Indie Comics Showcase. Let's jump in. All right, so the first one here is Morningstar Chronicles, number 1 by Jared Brickey. All right, so let me see here. All right, so let's see now. All right, so let me go. All right, so let me go grab the link here. And this looks like it's the Fund My Comic campaign. All right. Chronicles number 1. And again, if you guys, again, I share the link here so that you guys can check out the projects for yourself as well. If you guys want to go check those out, try to help some of these creators out. All right, so let me see here. Yeah, okay, that's not, yeah. All right, so I got to do this as well here. Okay, so I put the link in both the, of course, the should you should have so the Rumble and YouTube should have the link available if you guys want to check those out. Highlight that in just a moment here. All right, so there's the one to the YouTube. All right. Well, I guess I can at least read the stuff from. I guess I just can't post comments because of it, but I can at least read them from here. That's good to know. All right, so there we go. So now let's talk a bit more about the project now. Let me get into the article here. So Morningstar Chronicles #1 by Jared Brickey. And then here's of course the cover. The Ghost of Ashcroft, Jared Brickey and Marcus Rosato. Let's get into this. Chris Braley, Jared, welcome to Indie Comic Showcase. To start us off, what's a quick pitch for Morningstar Chronicles? What can readers expect from the first issue? Jared Brickey, lurking in the shadows of Ashcroft, ruthless crime syndicates traffic drugs in and victims out. But rumors exist of something far worse, a secretive and deadly cult. Amid this brewing storm stands a lone vigilante dubbed Ghost by the, in quotes there, by the local media. Driven by a haunted past, Ghost wages a crusade against the criminal tide using razor-sharp instincts, cutting-edge tech, and an unerring sense of justice. It's 28 pages of full-color action. Kind of in the vein of Batman. Wow. Kind of in the vein of Batman here. Chris, what sparked the idea for this story, and what pushed you towards self-publishing? Jared, I love the wide variety of fiction, traditional novels, comics, animation, and games. And in many ways, this is a love letter to a number of my favorites. I think there's something here for everyone. From Batman, okay, as I thought, I got. You guys noticed I picked it right up right away that there was some Batman influence in there, and he just confirmed it right there in his remarks there. So, again, feel free to comment and or ask questions if anything here catches your attention. If you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated as well. So from Batman to Dragon Ball to The Darkness. As for why I'm doing it myself, well, who else is going to do it? And besides, it's the only way I get total creative freedom. And as we pointed out several times, this is why many people go down the independent publishing path, to have that total creative freedom, to not have to worry about editors looking over your shoulder and telling you, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. You've got the final say on what you publish. Chris, who do you think will connect most with this book? Jared, males ages 18 to 40, maybe older given the comic market. The content is fine for teens, but I tried to cast a wide net because I think it can appeal to men, women, and really any age with the kind of story it is. Hmm. Hmm. Chris, tell us a bit about your creative process and how you've developed as a comics writer. Jared, I'm pretty dang new, but I've written for Arrow Comics as well as Primeverse Comics and Rising Star Comics, two new crowd-funded comic brands. Writing comics is something I always wanted to do, but never saw an inroad for. I took a chance submitting a script in 2021. They loved it, and it got my foot in the door. Uh, let's see, Chris, who's on Morningstar Chronicles creative team alongside you? Jarrett, artist Marcus Rosado, colorist B. Navarro, letterer Joel Saavedra, and writer Jared Bricky. So he even included himself in that answer. But that's usually a good point to get, make sure you basically get everybody in there, right? All right. So continuing on here. Chris, how do you typically go from idea to finished page? And where are you in production now? Jared, I like to write a fairly thorough script, somewhere between the Marvel method and Alan Moore, while working with the art team to incorporate their advice and suggestions, really making the book collaborative. I'm happy to say the book is complete. We did a limited digital launch back in October 2024. So, wow, what, 10 months ago. And after several people asked for a printed copy, we decided to launch a pre order campaign for it. Had digital success, so I figured you'd go for some print success as well. That's pretty interesting. Chris, what lessons have you picked up from the crowdfunding and self-publishing process so far? Jared, you definitely need realistic goals and a personal idea of what success means. Anyone and anything can find an audience, but the important part is finding that audience. Your art or story can be the greatest of all time or simply quote unquote fine, but enough people have to love it for it to work. Chris, do you have plans for more Morningstar stories down the road? Uh, Jared, Morningstar Chronicles #1 is the prequel series introduction, and I have a 10-issue story planned for Morningstar itself. In between each Morningstar issue, I want to tell more Chronicles stories to expand character lore and side stories for readers who really get invested. So you have the Chronicle story kind of giving you the setup, and then you have the main story giving you the meat. So nice looking lady right there. Whoa. Chris, are there any perks or extras for backers of the print edition? Um, Jared, um, this was originally planned only as a digital release, but so many people wanted a copy to hold and own, which was incredibly encouraging. There's a small change between this and the digital version as an Easter egg, and everyone who backs a print copy will get a free bookmark. Chris, Before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say to our readers? Jared, thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you check out my campaign, and thank you, Bleeding Fool, for giving me a platform. I've been blessed to meet so many amazing and supportive people in indie comics. No matter what happens in the future of Frost Comics, the ride has been incredible. Chris, good luck on the campaign. All right, so now let me just check and see if there's any. So Fitz shows up. Thanks for dropping in. Of course, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Feel free to also subscribe to my YouTube or follow me on Rumble, either or even both. That'd be appreciated. So, let's see now. Let me just see some things here. Alrighty then. So now getting to the next article here. Next evolution number 3. Let me go grab by Heather Velli. Let me go grab the link there. And here's another Fund My Comic project. Next evolution number 3. All right, and I gotta go do this also on the Rumble site. All right. So here's the links for that for the YouTube, of course, for the YouTube audience. Highlighting that. And for the Rumble audience, again, feel free to go check out these. Feel free to go check out these projects. So let's get into the article then. Let's see. Next evolution number 3 by Heather Velli Jimenez. All right, Chris Braley. Heather, welcome to Indie Comics Showcase. For those new to the story, what's the premise of Next Evolution, and where does issue number 3 take us? Heather Velli. This is a continuation of Skylar's fight to take down the corrupt Galen Inc. Before they cause further harm to the public. In this issue, she's been captured by some of the East End boys, but the tables turn in a showdown with members of Galen Inc.'s crew. It's a 22-page black and white adventure illustrated by the talented Martin Jimenez. with plenty of twists and surprises. Chris, what sparked the idea for this series and why did you choose to self publish? Heather, the idea came from my observation of how drug companies operate and the thalidomide disaster from the 1960s. I decided to self publish so I can make my comic the way I want without having to hold back. Again, common theme here. Common theme with indie comic creators. Chris, who is your target audience and what kinds of readers will get the most out of Next Evolution? Heather, my comic is made for mature audiences who love action, conspiracy theories, and pushing back against corrupt companies. All right. Chris, how would you describe your creative style and how do real world events influence your storytelling? Heather, I'd say my style is fairly modern, yet grounded. Despite some of the more fantastical elements, I take a few things from the true events and run with them. For me, truth is just as fascinating as fiction. Well, there is that classic old saying that truth is stranger than fiction sometimes. So I guess she's just taking her cues from that. Hmm. All right, so continuing on with the article here. Chris, tell us a little about your collaborators. Who's helping bring this latest issue to life? Heather. Martin Jimenez is both the artist and the letterer for the book. I was connected to him through an acquaintance on X, and he's a big fan of horror, Marvel Comics, and action books. Chris, walk us through your production process. How close are you to the finish line on this issue? Heather, when it comes to writing, I like to draw out a chicken scratch comic page to help me visualize how the panels will flow. Then I type up the description and dialogue. The book about the book's about 90% complete. Martin only has two more pages to go. So, Chris, what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned from crowdfunding and self-publishing so far? Heather, one thing I've learned, though I'm still learning, to be honest, is how to be a salesman. I've had to get comfortable pitching my comic to potential buyers. Chris, what can fans expect for the future of next evolution? And do you have other projects in the works? Heather, Next Evolution is going to run for 6 or 7 issues, so I'll be working on it for a while. Outside of that, I've got a few more projects in mind. One about average people becoming vigilantes to create a better future, with some sci-fi elements, and another that's a character study of a female Joker clone. Hmm, interesting. There's Skylar right there. Chris, are there any perks, extras, or special features for backers of this campaign? Heather, there are a few different tiers where you can get the previous issues along with Next Evolution number 3, Each order will also come with a special postcard and magnet. Let's see, Chris, before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say directly to the readers? Heather, I am very proud of this series, not just because it's my first, but because it's turned out better than I expected. I owe everyone who's contributed and supported my efforts a big thank you. Oh, and actually, it looks like we have a third. We have a third. Project on this. They only advertised two on there, so there's a nice little surprise. Show though. Let's see what he has. You talking about Douglas? No, I don't think so. I've just been going over these projects coming up. Actually, I haven't heard of anything from Doug Ernst in a while. But anyways, looks like we have a third project here that was not previously mentioned. So I guess we will be reporting on that one as well. So let's see. The project is called Uneven Ground, number 1 from Len Mihalovic. So let me go grab that link. And then we'll of course, post that up. Okay, this is kind of a weird thing. So what exactly is this site now? Let's see if they have something up here. So this is Lenovations Press online. So Lenovations Press. Uneven ground. There it is. All right, so let me go grab this link. I'll grab the link there. Let me go back up here for a moment. Uneven ground number 1. All right. And let me go put it up on the Rumble one as well. So here are obviously three books. If you guys want to go check those campaigns out, there's the link on the YouTube page. And here's the link on the Rumble page. Alrighty then. So let's get back to the article here then. All right, so Chris Braley, for those unfamiliar with your work, what's the quick pitch for Uneven Ground number 1? Len Mihalovic. Uneven Ground #1 tackles the controversial true story of Colonel Draja Mihailovich. I wonder if he's a relative. And the Chetnik resistance in World War II, Yugoslavia. Inspired by a wartime comic from 1942, parentheses, Real Heroes #6 by Parents Magazine Press, parentheses. The issue presents both a modern-day dramatization and reprints the original period story, inviting readers to compare how this chapter of history was portrayed in its own time versus how it is seen today. Wow, that's a very interesting concept. Looking back at time periods to see how things were portrayed in the actual time period that they're portrayed in, and from looking back on it as well. Very very interesting concept there. Somewhat similar to what we do on Sundays with the historical comic retrospect in some respects. And again, a friendly reminder, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. And of course, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel and or follow me on Rumble as well. To where you have more and more site to do things. So, but that wait, no. All right. So Chris, what inspired you to tell this particular story, and why did you choose to publish it yourself? Len, the idea for Uneven Ground #1 came from my love of quote unquote rescuing forgotten comics and reintroducing them to modern readers. I've done that before with characters like Red Mask, Buffalo Bill, and the Avenger. But this time I wanted to tackle a real piece of history. While researching World War II stories, I came across the 1942 Real Heroes #6 story about Colonel Draja Mihailovich and the Chetnik Rebellion. It was idealized wartime storytelling aimed at kids. Underneath was a much more complicated and controversial real story. I grew up in the shadow of this historic figure and wanted to find a way to honor that legacy. So, wow. Well, okay, so I guess he's indicating there that this was one of his ancestors, I guess. Or Chris, who do you think will connect most with Uneven Ground #1? Len, Uneven Ground #1 is for readers who enjoy grounded character-driven stories with real historical roots. If you like war comics, historical fiction, or even documentaries, this will feel right at home. It's aimed at comic readers who appreciate learning something while being entertained, and people who like to see history brought to life through compelling art and storytelling. Now, hopefully, this guy is just educating them and not trying to preach at them. That'd be my only concern. Because a lot of the more stuff that we hear about nowadays, where they're preaching at you, they claim they're trying to educate people. But we know how that all works out, right? It's also for fans who may not normally pick up a quote-unquote war comic, but are drawn to stories about ordinary people making extraordinary choices. While there's action, it's not nonstop gunfire. The focus is on the people, the decisions they make, the situations they're forced into. Whether you're into Sergeant Rock, March, or even indie graphic novels with historical settings, this fits in that space. Chris, how would you describe your storytelling approach and creative process? Len, my style is rooted in storytelling first. Whether I'm working on superhero adventures, westerns, or western fiction, I'm focus my focus is always on the characters, the choices they make under pressure. So a good premise there. After publishing comics for over a decade through Lenovations Press, I've developed a process that works for me and my team. It's a blend of research, scripting, and constant collaboration with artists at every stage. I'm hands on during production, reviewing layouts, pencils, um, inks, colors, and lettering, making sure every stage supports the mood we're aiming for. Let's see, Chris here. Hmm. All right, so Chris, tell us about the team behind the book. Len, for Uneven Ground #1, I worked with artist Kevin Phillips, who brought the story to life with an approach that balanced historical accuracy and visual drama. Together, we made sure the period details, from uniforms and landscapes to the expressions of the characters, were authentic, while keeping the storytelling dynamic and engaging. Phil Miller provided the cover art, delivering a bold, striking image that immediately stands out. Pariah Pillai handled the colors, and his work elevated the entire project. The coloring added depth and an atmosphere to every page, grounding the story in its era while guiding the reader's emotional response at each scene. I handled the scripting, assisted Kevin with the final lettering, and contributed to the coloring and overall design, making sure everything from panel pacing to dialogue placement supported the vision of the story. It was a true collaboration, and everyone involved understood we were telling a historically inspired story with a controversial subject. Every member of the team brought their best work to ensure it was handled with both respect and impact. How did the Chris yeah, okay. Chris asked, how did the production process unfold for Uneven Ground #1? Len, the workflow followed the same structure I used for all Lenovations Press titles. Starts with research and outlining, then moves into scripting the story panel by panel. Once the script is locked, I work closely with the artists on layouts and pencils, reviewing each stage before moving to inks, colors, and lettering. I stay involved in every step to make sure the storytelling, pacing, and historical details stay consistent with the vision. So this guy's pretty much hands-on creative there. Hmm. We'll get it. Hmm. All right. Getting back to the story here. Chris, what's next for Uneven Ground? Len, originally I thought this would be a standalone, but the response convinced me to turn it into an ongoing series. The concept is to explore moments in history where ordinary people are forced into extraordinary situations. Next up is Christmas in the Jungle during the Vietnam War, in parentheses, followed by the Blizzard Bus, in parentheses, Blizzard of 78. Each will blend historical accuracy with dramatic storytelling to bring lesser-known events to life. Sounds like some pretty interesting stories here that he's kind of trying to promote. Chris, are there any unique elements or perks tied to this release? Len, one of the most unique features of Uneven Ground #1 is that it includes a reprint of the original Real Heroes #6 story from 1942 by Parents Magazine Press. This lets readers compare the idealized wartime version of events with the more nuanced modern retelling in the main story. It is not presented as a sequel or endorsement. It is a historical context and a look at how this chapter of World War II was originally told to children. Our crowdfunding of choice is Patreon, where new signups get a free comic after the first paid release. Chris, any final messages for readers before we wrap up? Len, I appreciate everyone who takes a chance on an indie comic, especially one that steps outside the usual genres. Uneven Ground #1 is a project I poured a lot of research and care into, and I think readers will find it both engaging and thought-provoking. Lenovations Press also has many other exciting titles across different genres, so there is something for just about every kind of comic fan. You can find Uneven Ground #1 and all of our other comic books at lenovationspress.com or Drive-Thru Comics and through our Patreon. Chris, thanks for sharing this, Len. That's it for this installment. If you're a creator ramping up your own campaign or have a comic available to purchase online and you want to be featured in our weekly column, click here. So we can hopefully help you get more eyes on your crowdfunding comic project. Until next time, support indie comics. All right, then. So there we go with that. So before we head on to the next portion of the show, let me just go back and one more time share the link for you guys to check out. So the first one we went over was Morningstar Chronicles #1. There's the link right there. Of course, that's on the YouTube page. And here's, of course, highlighting the Rumble page, Henry, for Morningstar Comics. Now, here's for Next Evolution #3. There we go with that. And then here's the Rumble link, the highlight for the Rumble. And for Uneven Ground #1, there's the highlight for YouTube and the highlight for Rumble. All right. I do need to step away from the computer for a moment. But I will be right back. And then when I come back, of course, we'll do the wrestling wrap up and basically just get everything kind of wrapped up here. But I will put some music on while I'm gone. Let's enjoy while I wait. And I'll be right back. back, so let's get ready to move on to the wrestling wrap-up. As in some WWE news here, let's start off. WWE news to start off. Before we get into going back to last night, in a recent interview, Tori Wilson had come out, stated that she wouldn't mind, she would not mind coming back for one more match. They often ask, well, do wrestlers have one more match in them? They always feel that they do. So the last time Tori Wilson actually stepped in the ring, of course, was back in 2021's Royal Rumble. I guess in an interview she did recently, she said she might be interested in coming back for one more match. Not necessarily coming back altogether, but just coming back for one more match. She's kind of enjoying her current life. So now with that, let's talk about what happened on last night's AEW Dynamite. As of course AEW is continuing to move towards Forbidden Door, coming up a week from this Sunday on the 24th. Last night's AEW Dynamite, coming from the Andrew J. Brady Music Center in Cincinnati, Ohio, with Excalibur, Taz, and Tony Schiavone on commentary. In the opening match saw Jon Moxley of the Death Riders with Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta in his corner, defeating Kevin Knight with his Jet Speed tag partner Speedball Mike Bailey in his corner. In a 6-woman tag team match, Queen Aminata, Willow Nightingale, and Alex Windsor defeated Mercedes Moné and the Triangle of Madnesses Sky Blue and Thekla with Julia Hart in their corner. And of course, Mercedes Moné will be defending the TBS title at Forbidden Door in a fatal 4-way. Alex Windsor already having qualified for that fatal 4-way representing AEW. We still have yet to hear who will be representing Stardom and CMLL in that match. Adam Copeland defeated Stokely via DQ when I guess FTR came out to attack him, only for Christian to come out and for Christian and Cope to reunite. Then in an 8-man tag match, Brody King teamed with Hiromu Takahashi and the conglomeration's Hologram and New Japan Strong openweight champion Tomohiro Ishii, as initially it was scheduled to be a mystery opponent, and Hiromu Takahashi was the mystery opponent, to defeat the Don Callis family of Josh Alexander, Kyle Fletcher, and the Young Bucks of Matt and Nick Jackson. The main event saw in a non-title trios match, 6-man tag match, AEW World 6-man AEW World Trios Champions Powerhouse Hobbs, Samoa Joe, and Katsuyori Shibata defeated La Facción Ingobernables of Beast Mortos, Dralistico, and Rush. So that's all that happened on last night's Dynamite. Now, of course, we'll move on to tonight's look ahead to tonight's TNA Impact and Ring of Honor action. As on tonight's Impact, coming from the Thomas M. Ryan Center in Kingston, Rhode Island, with Tom Hannafan and Matthew Rainrot on commentary on Access TV. This is the go-home Impact before tomorrow night's Emergence pay-per-view being held in Baltimore. The opening match of the evening will see Indy Hartwell teaming with Danny Luna take on Mila Grace and Harley Hudson. Matt Cardona is set to take on John Skyler, with of course his great hand tag team partner Jason Hott and Tasha Steelz in his corner. Eric Young is set to take on Mike Santana. Of course, Eric Young will have the rest of his Northern Armory faction of Judas Icarus, Travis Williams. In a 6-man tag match, Cedric Alexander teams with the Rascals of Myron Reed and Zachary Wentz to take on their respective opponents coming up for tomorrow night's emergence. TNA X Division champion Leon Slater and the Hardy Boys, the TNA World Tag Team champions, Jeff and Matt Hardy. And in the main event, we'll see the Systems, Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, and JDC taking on First Class of AJ Frank. And again, they seem to apparently they're saying that Rich Swann is, I guess, making a return to TNA after being gone for quite some time. AJ Francis and Rich Swann makes his return on tonight's Impact, teaming with TNA World Champion Trick Williams, and of course, Trick Williams will be defending the TNA World Heavyweight Championship on tomorrow night's Emergence pay-per-view against the face of the franchise, Moose. And finally, taking a look at what's going down on tonight's Ring of Honor Club, coming from the Byline Bank Aragon Ballroom in Chicago, Illinois, with Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni on commentary on Ring of Honor Wrestling.com. Let's see now. On tonight's episode of Ring of Honor Honor Club, opening match will see Lance Archer taking on Don Callis family member Lance Archer taking on Ren Jones. Taya Valkyria with the M&M Collection and Johnny TV in her corner will be taking on Layla Gray, who will be have Christopher Daniels in her corner representing Skyflight. New Japan strong open weight champion Tomohiro Ishii takes on CMLL's Oro. Gringo Loco will be taking on Willie Mack in an 8-man tag team match. You will have the Beast Mordos from La Facción Ingobernables teaming with CMLL's Defunto, Hechicero, and Volador Jr. to take on the Spanish Announced Project of Angelico and Serpentico, A.R. Fox, and Alex Zane. In a proving ground match for the Ring of Honor Pure title, in which the challenger can earn a title shot in this case at the Pure Championship by and this is the main event, by either defeating or lasting the 10-minute time limit with the champion. Lee Moriarty will be fending off the challenge of Zahuya for the Pure title. And that's all I got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now with that being said, today is Thursday, August the 14th, 2025. So let's take a look back at this date. Niche history. So 1975. And all right. So first off, we're going to head back 50 years ago today, as on this date back in 1975. on this date back in 1975. Canadian composer Frank Marsalis passed away at the age of 88. Frank Marsalis was a Canadian composer best known for his work scoring many classical animated shorts by Warner Brothers in the 1930s. He also worked for Walter Lantz Studios in the mid to late 1930s. So basically, Frank Marsalis was a composer back in the 30s who worked primarily for Warner Brothers and Walter Lantz Productions. On this date, 50 years ago, he passed away at the age of 88. Now moving on ahead to the next piece of niche history. As we move ahead to the year 1996, it sounds like, all right, this date in the year 1996. Okay, so on this date in the year 1996, the 20th issue of Generation X from Marvel went on sale on this date back in 1996. That was, of course, 29 years ago today. On this date, 29 years ago today, the 20th issue of Generation X from Marvel went on sale on this date. It sold for $1.95, was 32 pages. The story was Bodies in Motion, as written by Scott Lobdell, penciled by Chris Bachalo. Mark Buckingham did the inking, Richard Starkings did the lettering, and Stephen J. Busalito did the coloring. So 29 years ago today, the 20th issue of Generation X from Marvel went on sale on this date back in 1996. So now we're going to move ahead to the year 2005, which was, of course, 20 years ago. On this date, 20 years ago today. On this date, 20 years ago today. Total Nonstop Action, TNA, held its Sacrifice pay-per-view from the TNA Impact Zone in Orlando, Florida. The show featured, show was commentated, of course, by Mikestand and Don West. The main event saw Jeff Jarrett and Rhino defeat Raven and Sabu. In the Super X Cup final, Samoa Joe defeated AJ Styles. In an 8-man tag match, Team Canada's A1, Bobby Roode, Petey Williams, and Eric Young defeated America's Most Wanted of Chris Harris and James Storm, along with the Naturals of Andy Douglas and Chase Stevens with Jimmy Hart in their corner. Let's see, some other in a rehash of an old rivalry from their independent days together in the Minnesota area. Jerry Lynn defeated Sean Waltman. Sean Waltman, many of you would remember as X-Pac. Three Live Crews, Conan and Ron Killings defeated Kip James and Monty Brown in a tag team match with BG James, aka Road Dogg, serving as special guest referee. The show opened up with a 6-man X Division tag team match that saw Sanjay Dutt, Chris Sabin, and Shark Boy defeat Simon Diamond, Elix Skipper, and David Young. And 2005 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. And also on this date in the year 2005, as I, of course, pull that up. Ichikawa Pro's 4-minute music OVA Binchotan was released on this date back in 2005. So 20 years ago today, Ichikawa Pro's 4-minute music video OVA Binchotan was released on this date back in the year 2005. Alrighty then. So with that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Don't forget to check out the projects that are in the chat if you're interested. Any one of those kind of caught your attention. We'll of course be back here with more niche news tomorrow. And of course this Sunday I'll be joined by the Metal from the Vomitorium as we'll be taking another trip down Comic History Lane, as we will be looking back on comics in that time period. This week we'll be focusing in on Columbia Comics, Columbia Comic Corporation. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.